Hi, I'm Mindy Stearns.
And I'm Glenn Stearns.
And this is Grit Happens. On this show, we engage in candid conversations with some of the most successful people in every field and from every walk of life.
All with the common thread of grit and the common goal of not just surviving, but
thriving. And we hope this show helps you feel informed, energized, and
especially inspired. So let's get started.
This is
Grit Happens.
We're back. Isn't it a very exciting time? Is it a very exciting time because you finally did what everyone's been telling you to do for a very, 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 very long time.
I know.
But you couldn't do it by yourself.
I couldn't. And so I have not spoken to Laura, who's going to be on here in a second, at all yet. I started to right when I opened the box, which was very exciting. And then I tried to call you a couple times. And then finally, I thought, wait a minute, we're going to be on with her, so I'm going to wait. So
you're saving it like Christmas. You're like our Christmas morning present. We're just opening up right now.
That's right.
Very
so
exciting.
Anyway,
let's bring her in. That's
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Laura Morton.
Renowned author, best-selling author, New York Times. Is it 21 now? New York Times best-selling.
Soon to be 22.
Oh my God, 22. Let's manifest 22. Laura Morton.
Hey.
Hello.
Laura, first, I'm going to tell you, I feel like I'm a mama who just had a baby, right? And I absolutely was so excited. It was painful.
I know.
It was very, very painful.
Probably more for her than you, though.
I know. She beat the hell out of me. That's right.
So, Glenn, you enjoyed every minute of it.
I am. You know, it's called my slow and painful journey to success. Well, it was slow and painful writing of the book, right? I mean, and mostly because you would whip me because I was like, it was like pulling teeth, I'm sure. But you know what? I'm so proud and so excited for where we are right now. And I absolutely could not have done it without you, obviously. You know, so thank you so much for putting up with me and for having my voice and being able to help kind of
launch
really, you know, put it all in the paper.
Put it all together on paper. Yeah. It's been amazing.
Yeah,
Laura, what's your feelings right now that you see it in hard print?
Well, first of all, I just want to say what a privilege it is to have been able to help you get this over the finish line, Glenn. I know that you had been wanting to do this for a really long time. The story is fantastic. And I think that we captured you know, many volumes of your life, and there are many volumes of your life that we haven't, you know, maybe we'll save that for book 2, but I think that this is, you know, it's such a special book. And, you know, it's the best part of my job is that I get to work with amazing people like you and Mindy, and, you know, writing your story, Glenn, you know, exponentially changed my life as, you know, all the books that I work on have some impact on me. But I have to say that I think that Grit Happens is a really special read, and I think that people are going to really enjoy it. So thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your legacy, and thank you for having me today.
You know what? I adore this woman. She's become a very good friend, and I just want our listeners to know a little bit more about you and what have you done? I mean, I gave you a real brief introduction, but talk a little bit about you becoming an author and getting to partner with some of these incredible personalities. Walk us a little bit through that journey, your own.
Sure, absolutely. So I was working in production. I was one of the original pioneers of the celebrity exercise video market in the early 90s. And I brought the world Richard Simmons, and I did workout videos with Reebok and, you know, all sorts of amazing, you know, personalities. And I did a workout video with Joan London called Workout America. And at the time, Joan was the host of Good Morning America. And she was 40 years old. She had just gone through a very high profile divorce, and she had lost a ton of weight, and she looked like $1 million. And so, you know, I said to her after we finished doing the exercise video, I said, you know, you should write a book, because I think that so many women will really relate to your story. I mean, I think you're 40, you're single, you've got 3 kids, you know, you're starting over, you look great. Like, how did you do that? And she said to me, well, let's write it together. And, you know, we were out to dinner, and we just started mapping out a little timeline of what we thought the book would be. And we came up with this great idea of doing a part cookbook, part memoir. And we thought it was a genius idea. I don't know. I'm not going to confirm or deny that there was wine involved. And the next day we went to go see her agent at William Morris. And we presented the concept to him, and he said, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life.
Ouch.
Wow.
And I literally said to him, it was
Damn
Jim Griffin.
agents.
I said, Jim Griffin was legendary in TV. He was the head of the television department. And I said, like, the worst ever of like any idea you've ever heard? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, why? And he said, because Joan doesn't cook.
Oh.
And I said, but Jim, you know that. I said, but there's 20 million viewers a week that see Joan in their kitchen, and she's in the kitchen with Julia Child and Wolfgang Puck. Do you think anybody really cares if Joan can cook?
Right.
And he said, yeah, I do. I said, I don't. And so Joan and I walked out of his office that day, and she turned to me, she goes, well, it was a good idea. And I said, no, it is a good idea. I'll go sell your book. And I did.
And
I
that's
sold
where
her
it
book.
began.
That is where it began. I will tell you though, I sold her book, and then, her attorney said, I'm working with this agent. His name was Al Lohman, who was just a legend in the book business for years, and he's since passed. And he said, Al just sold a book for Diana Ross. Maybe we should hand this to him and see if he can get a better deal. And he did. He doubled the money that we got.
Oh
and guess who then thought it was a really, really good idea? Was her agent when he took his 10%.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And that book was on the New York Times bestseller list for months. And that was the first book that I ended up writing. And Joan and I have written a number of books together since. But in between, books with Joan, I've done books with everyone from Jerry Springer to the Jonas Brothers to Justin Bieber, Jennifer Hudson, and many, many others. And I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I said, I think that I would like to move away from the celebrity stuff and maybe start writing books with titans of business. And so I started pursuing some books in that lane, and I met John Maxwell, and I wrote John Maxwell's 70th book with him, and it was his legacy book. It was the most personal book that he had ever written.
Wow.
Excuse me.
We were just with John last week.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Horatio Alger. He's an Horatio Alger.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, he's just, well, I think, I think he's amazing. And so, John well, and his books have never really been all that personal. And when I came on, I helped John get to a really personal place where we wrote intentional living together. And that changed a lot for me as a writer. It made me become very intentional in the kind of projects I wanted to do. And, those I had a checklist of 3 things after working on that book that I said, in order for me to say yes to anything going forward, it has to check 3 boxes for me. And I have to genuinely like the person. So Glenn, check, genuinely like you.
Do you like me afterwards?
You still like him?
Okay,
I said, I love you. I liked you in the beginning, and now I love you. And it's, the second thing was I actually have to believe in the story and the message that they're putting out. And the third thing, and this is the biggest one, is that it has to put good into the world.
Oh, I like that.
And yeah. And so it made it very easy for me when somebody comes to me and says, do you want to write my book? If it doesn't check those 3 boxes, it's an easy no for me. So, I've done a lot of books in between with a lot of really amazing people. And Glenn, I'm so proud of the book that we've written together. I think that people are really going to enjoy the read. I think they'll laugh. I think they'll cry. I think they'll learn a lot. I think your story is inspirational in so many ways. And as you well know, my daughter wanted to know when I was going to be done writing your book because I was constantly quoting you to her. And she,
like
yeah.
Well,
So
I'll tell you, not to sound whatever, I don't know the right word, but
She'll find it for you because she's really
no, I like my story. And what I mean by that is I like the fact that when I started reading it after, you'd kind of put it all in the paper after we had spent, this was 3 years, right, of going back and forth over all this. But after then going and rereading, at first I'm going, man, was I a derelict, right, in the beginning, like reading it, not thinking about it being you're going, this guy, what a loser. But I've always said it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And I'm not finished, but I'm obviously
certainly evolved.
Yeah, I think that I like the trajectory. I like where it's going so far. Let's put it that way. And but I think that it was very therapeutic, right? To be able to look back and see things that have happened, and there's cause and effect, and there's reasons why I think you can, not just me, but people, if they can take what has happened in their life, and if they can turn all the crap and all the, disappointment and everything, and you can use that as fuel to get you somewhere else, I think it's very positive, right? If people can look at that in their own lives and go, man, I've been through so much, and not claim to be the victim, as we say, but to be the victor, right? And to look at it and say, you know, all this didn't just happen in vain. It happened for a reason. And now I'm here to cash in on, and I don't mean cash in financially necessarily, but in happiness, right? In what we do as people and humans, just to feel loved. I think about my dad, right? When he started, he wasn't such a great man, but how he ended was wonderful. And so looking at what you were able to help me put on the paper, I'm proud of where I am, and I'm proud of getting through all this shit, right? I mean, that's part of life, and so.
Laura, when you were in writing this book with Glenn, was there anything that surprised you in the process? I mean, you've read a lot of stories. Was it something about him, or a story, or a way he exists in the world that surprised you in the process?
That's a great question. I think there are pieces of Glenn's story that I personally related to, his cancer journey. And I think we write so vividly about some of the treatment that Glenn went through, and the grueling nature of it. And yet he, kept his sense of humor, and again, even in those circumstances, never felt like a victim. And his grit and determination to make it through. I think that I think also what I always tell people, I have the benefit of learning life lessons without actually having to go through them. So when I write somebody's book, I experience the mistakes, and I experience the victories every bit as much. But it's really the challenges and how you get through them that I always take with me, because I think there's so much value in that. And so, the story of Glenn getting through the housing crisis in 2007, 2008, how he kept his company afloat, I find that incredibly inspiring. And, again, another story of great grit and determination. I also just love Glenn's love of life. I think there's a lot to be said about that. And I'll tell you one other thing is Glenn, his not worrying, just knowing that there is an answer and there's a solution. And I do fall victim to the addiction of worry. And so I think when I work with people who have bigger mountains than I do, and they don't worry about it, it's an inspiration to me that this will be a blip on the screen, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. And I think, Glenn, there's so many things that you've been through that demonstrate that we talk about in the book.
It's funny because I say it probably too much, but I talk about having a child at 14, right? And again, I probably say it way too much, but the reason is that was really one of the fundamental reasons for what I call success later in life, because what I thought was just horrible, the worst thing, because I'm only 14. I don't have a lot of coping skills. I don't know what I'm doing, but I thought I disappointed everybody. I was, in this weird spot. And then later for it to turn out, wow, I've got this beautiful daughter. And, and so when you focus on just this negative stuff, you don't have the ability to see the silver linings in life, but it gave me the ability to do that. And so then that's been a great kind of reason why I was able to then, I think, go through life and be maybe that kid in the, that story, right? You put two kids in a room, two different rooms full of horse manure, right? And the one's disappointment, where's my toys? And the other one's going, digging. There's got to be a pony under here somewhere, right? It's having the ability to look at things differently. And so I think it came from early on, having some setbacks and then finding out they're actually gifts, and when you talk about the cancer one, I was like, Mindy was like, oh, look, we're going to go on Caring Bridge and we're going to put stuff out there so everyone sees it. I'm like, to me, Bridge means you're dying. I don't want to be on Bridge. I don't want to.
But it doesn't, though.
It doesn't. But I was in a bad spot in my head because I'm thinking I might be dying, and I said I don't want to go there. And she goes, well, fine. I'm going to write a blog, and I'm going to do it in Facebook. And I was like, I don't want to read it. I don't care. Do it.
I don't think you ever read it.
I don't know that I ever did any of it, but
it was really good.
What happened was so many people. I want a happy ending. So many people had
dreams.
Well,
when you dreams, you will have happy.
So
and you see why I had so much fun writing the book.
I could keep going on with that one.
Yeah.
But but so many people commented on, gosh, I loved your journey through cancer. I loved, which is weird. And thank you, Mindy, for giving us every step of the way, which was, she talked about the most painful stuff, right? And then to have people like Richard Branson reach out and write, laughter is the best medicine, and quoting what Mindy had written down, and how, the little things, which is all true. Like, I'd be on my backgammon, right?
Oh my God,
I gotta win
for his life.
If I can win this one, I'm gonna live through cancer, right? I just got, hang on, let me finish this backgammon game.
Okay, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, 2. Okay, I didn't win that one, but maybe 2 out of 3. Right, and
he plays until he wins. He really does,
yeah.
And he does win a lot.
Yeah, I know. We were flying together, if you recall, and I think I was beating you in backgammon, and you did not want to land the plane until you won a game.
Yes,
circle around again.
He is relentless. Did you see that through the writing this process? I mean, this book took a little time to nail him down. I mean, this guy is hard to nail. He's like crazy whirling dirt. Now, was there ever writer's block, or was it just trying to pin him down? What was the most challenging thing in writing this book?
Well, the time frame was definitely not my doing. I just want to say, like, but here's the thing. I think, in the book, we talk a lot about, how Glenn does things in general, right? He's not, he studied for the test the night before. That's not a guy who was studying all semester long, right? And, and he still manages to do just,
me so well.
She does know you very well.
He still manages to do just fine. And, it's, writing a book is a process. And there were things that happened in Glenn's story along the way where we talked about it and we said, maybe we need to let this play out. We don't want your book to feel dated. If it comes out now, maybe we need to sit on this for a little while. Let's let the story continue writing itself. So while this did go a little bit longer than most books that I write, it was important that we allowed the process to unfold that way, because I think in the end, we ended up with a better book. And I think sometimes, as they say, the universe unfolds exactly as it should.
Yes.
Glenn's father passed away in that year that we were kind of letting things play out. There were things that happened that put a different twist on the story. And in fact, we had to come back and write a final chapter that was done maybe 1.5 years after we finished the rest of the book. And I think it was a really important chapter to include in this book. So I think that it's, in this process, part of my job is not just to be therapist and writer and friend. Part of my job is to also guide us toward the best book that we know will mean the most to the reader. And I think that happened in this case.
I do too.
When I think about people out there and our audience, I know, Mindy used to say, your audience is your mom and dad and my dad.
It used to be like 4 listeners. I think we have a lot more now.
All right, so maybe it's more than just her mom and dad, and but anyway, so there's a lot of people out there that are in their own, drama and a lot of things going on in their life, and they're struggling to get up the mountain and trying to reach their goals and their dreams. And when I think about a lot of different things, like I'll take the TV show that I did, halfway through, I knew I was going to fail. And I was trying to find the exit door as fast as I could, because I thought if I can just bow out, they'll never make this show and no one will ever see me fail. But then when you stick it through and then you end up succeeding, you go, that was the best journey I ever took, because I thought I was going to fail. I was afraid I would fail. And yet I kept fighting and I didn't fail. Well, life is like that, right? Well, writing the damn book, if you remember, well, of course you do. And the end, I'm going, I think my mortgage business is going to fail. I'm going, like, we're going to release this book about what a, great business guy I am. And by the time it comes out, I'm going to have closed down my mortgage company, right? Like, what a hypocrite. And so all those things are exactly what other people feel. You just keep hearing in your voice the no's, and you hear all the why you're going to fail. And you've got this, devil on your shoulder telling you it's okay to quit, or you put your head in the sand, or give up, or whatever you want to say. And all of us go through that, right? Well, in writing the book, it was done and it felt real good, except I'm going to look like a hypocrite because I'm going to close down the mortgage company. So we waited, right? And guess what? I didn't close down the mortgage company. I fought through all that pain. I mean, there's been so much pain in our industry.
Chapter you're writing,
literally.
And it's not chapter 13.
No. And what happened?
Good one, Mindy.
Since we put the book on hold, we went up 601% market share. We had our best month ever last month. We are killing it in the industry. We're the only company that I know that turned a profit right now, because it's very difficult.
We've hired like 60 people or more
this last month or so. I mean, we are hiring. Everyone else is laying off. So it's just another example to people that when you think you're about to give up, when you think you're at the end of the road, you just push once more and keep going. And so that's what the book is all about, right? It's about the grit, and it's about keep doing it. And then there was an example right in the middle of writing the book. I'm going, here I go again, my goodness. And so in there, it comes out the other side. It's not over with, right? I mean, nothing ever is. But I'm grateful for the journey. I'm even grateful for the nerves, right? Of going, man, how am I going to do this? But that's part of figuring it all out.
Real stick to it.
Well, I want to say that vulnerability is, a sign of strength, right? That willingness to share that in your book in so many different places, I think, will really resonate with your reader. And I think, Mindy, you asked me if anything took me by surprise. I think that there's a vulnerable side to Glenn that, I've had the privilege of getting to see, and I certainly know you do, but, not a lot of people get to see that side of him. But I think they'll be pleasantly surprised at the reflection, as he said, at the beginning of the interview, that he was reading this going, man, I sound, kind of like a jerk, but like, you got it. You have to go through what you have to go through.
Yeah. It was an evolution of Glenn. He really evolved through the book to be who he is now.
But he recognizes that behavior and things that happened, even that he had never really talked about before we wrote about it in the book. The reflection on it in the storytelling is really powerful. And I think, sometimes it's so much easier to look back through our, more mature eyes than we could possibly understand in those moments, right? As things are happening. And whether it's in business or in life, and certainly during our adolescence. And so I think that it's really great that Glenn is so open. And it also, I just think Glenn is full of an enormous amount of wisdom that really you want Glenn. He's that guy you want to sit down with and go, can I run something by you?
Yeah.
And you might not like Glenn's answer, right? Because he's a tough love guy.
He is a tough love. He'll tell it to you straight. He may not tell you the answer you want to hear.
You know what, though? Right. When I think about, you say the vulnerability and that kind of stuff, and when I look at a lot of successful people, a lot of people want to show you their best side, right? They want to show you everything about them that is perfect and working. And, we once had somebody that came to us, basically said, F you and your perfect lives, because they were reading Facebook, right? And I remember, we reached back out to this lady and said, you know, Facebook is for where you put all your good stuff. If I had a Facebook that was for all the bad stuff, it would be just as good or bad, right? Like there'd be so much in that side as well. But this book is where you take and you just show off all your good things, right? And so what I found to be the case is so many people that have had success just want you to see that side of them. And I've never come from that. I like to speak to the underdog, man, the people that are struggling to get there and say, I have been there. And it is painful for growth, and it is painful to succeed, and it is painful to get through a lot of things, but you keep putting one foot in front of the other. And so I'm okay with exposing my flaws, right? I lead with that usually. And I hope, and the reason I do it is that other people would go, God, that guy, he's not that smart, and he's not that good, and he's not, maybe I can do it then, and that's what I really want out of all this, that other people will be able to find their best self and realize it's not impossible.
Can I just read I love how it's dedicated. If you haven't yet realized your full potential, feel like you're not worthy of success, or think you've not made it, this book is dedicated to you, the underdogs of the world. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. That's beautiful.
God, who wrote that?
Somebody in this room, in this Zoom call. Somebody. Laura, is there, go ahead.
I was going to say, we had a lot of fun in going back and forth with some of this, but Glenn, I'm certainly glad that we included some of your shenanigans.
There's a few. Is anyone that stands out specifically to you? You were like, oh my God, Glenn.
There were a few word choices on my part that Glenn's like, I don't know what that word even means. Like, so.
Don't make me sound smart.
Just like, I would never say that. I don't even know what it means. So I love that about. Is there anything in all the books you've written, and you've written so many about you like the titans of their industry and business? Do you see any common theme here between Glenn and others of the books you've written?
I do, especially the business leaders that I've worked with. I would say it's so interesting how so many of them really came from very humble beginnings and did not have that leg up, did not have the silver spoon, but more like a plastic spoon, right? And Glenn,
the wooden
beat
right,
over my butt,
right? And I think what's so interesting is what drives that person. I always tell people that because of the work that I do, I'm a great study in sociology. Like, what do people have in common? And one of the things that the celebrities that I've worked with all have in common, it's shocking, is that they all had their report cards from every grade, and they all had their diaries. It's like they knew at some point they were going to document their life.
Interesting.
And it's a fascinating trait that they all share in common. And a lot of the business leaders that I've worked with really have had to through great grit and determination, really work hard and really kind of claw their way to the top. It doesn't just happen. And it is one step forward, two steps back for a very, very long time. And even now, Glenn, in all your success, you've experienced that. So I think it's really interesting when somebody comes from such humble beginnings, what drives them? Why do they want to be successful? And I don't think, Glenn, I could be wrong, but I don't think you ever imagined growing up that you were going to have this kind of success.
I didn't keep one report card. Okay, the ones I had, I changed the D's to the B's, and
right.
I had no intention of ever giving anybody a report card. Let's put it that way, right?
Right.
So,
right. But did you ever think that like when because like I just finished a book with someone and he knew, like, he just said, one day I'm going to be a millionaire. Like, he said it when he was probably in like 7th grade. And but in his mind, like, being a millionaire was it. And now he's a multi-billionaire. And did you ever have a moment where you thought that was your future?
That was not my driving goal. It's never been my driving goal. Money has never been my driving goal. So I never thought about that. When I first got out of like high school, I was thinking I wanted to be a truck driver because I could drive and I didn't have anybody to, I could be my own boss. I think that was my like my ceiling, right?
But you did want to be a dentist. What was that all about?
Well, no, then I thought, yeah, let me get into pre-dental and I could be a dentist. Yeah. And then
But then ology words hit him in the
every
face, and
ology
he
I
was
couldn't
like, I
do.
can't do the ologies.
But I think it's important to point out though that Glenn, you were the first member of your family to go to college.
I know, exactly. So I went there because I chased a girl, though. I wasn't there like I'm going to be
He
the
got a
brightest guy.
degree in how to pay for college. That was his degree.
That's right.
Very smart.
But yeah, now I'm a doctor.
Oh, yeah,
But
God.
I'll be a doctor.
Laura, he's unbearable. All he
Dr.
does is talk about
Stearns.
the doctor,
That's
because he's
right.
got the doctorate from Gannon University. He's getting a doctor from Towson University, honorary
Yep.
doctor here. And so he's like,
Wait,
doctor.
Don't put in the word honorary,
doctor.
please.
Oh.
Just say the word doctor.
Dude, you can't even
And-
spell doctor or doctorate. How do you spell doctorate?
D-O-K. So
DORK.
yeah.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Doctorate. He's getting a doctorate.
Doctor, it's a
Doctorate.
doctorate. Oh, I am so gonna use that. Thank you for that little nugget.
Wordsmith.
Doctorate.
But honestly, before you let me
Redeem yourself?
no, I'm not going to redeem myself. I'm going to tell you that again. One time I did a little talk to the kids of Towson, and they had put up there on this big sign, "Welcome, distinguished alumni, Glenn Stearns." And I got up there and I'm like, I think they got the wrong guy, right? Like distinguished. I said, I think I graduated like a 2.1. And the dean stood up. It was a 2.16. We looked up your grade point, right? And the kids in the back, the guy stands
This
up.
little boy goes, "There's hope for me."
Yeah.
There's
That's
hope.
awesome.
It was so funny.
And that's who I
Like,
speak to, right?
yeah.
Literally. I don't want to, I don't relate to people with 4.0 grade point averages or whatever, right there. And as I told my son, by the way, who struggles with dyslexia and ADHD and all that stuff, I said, son, you got to understand every single person has a gift. They're not all the same, right? And you see people that have retention and they can study well and they can get straight A's. That's wonderful. That's their gift. But then you and myself and a lot of other people don't have that gift. So we might develop the personality side better, where we can relate to people, we can talk to people. And I said, I guarantee once you get out of college, you want to be able to be relatable, and you'll find that as a very positive gift. Okay, no, you can't retain as well, and you don't know chemistry or whatever, but it's okay. The world needs us all. They need every single side. There's no one better or worse. It doesn't matter. The guys that have all the straight A's wish they could be more relatable. The guys that are more relatable wish they could be the magnum cum laude, whatever, right? It's, you always want what you can't have. But the reality is, be comfortable with your gift, whatever gift it is, right?
Because it is a gift. It is.
And Glenn, I think that's been a journey for you as well. That wisdom is what I'm talking about, where that you can impart that wisdom, but you can only impart that wisdom because of everything that you've gone through. Yeah. I remember a story in the book where you talk about, being away for the weekend and you were in a group of very successful business leaders. And why don't you tell the story if you have time? It's because you were feeling like you didn't belong in the room.
Well, when I we went hunting, and when we landed the airplane, we got into a helicopter to go up the Columbia Gorge, and then we were going to land on the property to go hunting. But as we got into the helicopter, my friend said, "Do you see those jets? Those jets are
owned by all the guys that are hunting."
Yeah, sorry, my phone went off.
I know your phone has been going off this whole time.
I know you've been getting
what? That's his way of success. Remember, he puts everything in his phone and everything goes off.
So hang on, folks out there. If you rewind this whole thing and you watch, every time my phone goes off, you see my wife getting more mad at me. You don't see the subtle little hints like turn your damn ringer off. I know what she's doing, right?
The steam, like,
because I keep turning it off. Anyway,
it goes up all day.
So watch that back, and you'll see the little. So
there'll be more later.
With that said, so
anyway, all the jets on the runway were all from all the people that were going to be attending this hunt this weekend. I'm just going to speed this along because I know how you kind of stumbled.
Yes.
So he was feeling very inferior because of all these private jets, of all these moguls, these titans, these business people. And so he gets in the room, sits down, and our dear friend, who's always like the one that starts a conversation at the table, there's no chit chat. It's like, let's get deep right away. Foster Freeze, an old friend.
He wasn't my old friend. I never met him before.
He is now. He has since passed, but he became
a dear friend. But when he sat down, and I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to relate to these people? I was young. I didn't have my own plane. But I had a lot of good toys. And so I knew I have to show these people I can relate to them. And
I belong here. I am worthy.
I need to throw in there the toys I have and the success I've had, because then I'll be worthy of being in the room with them. And so as our breakfast started, Foster, the dear friend that had since passed, I had not met him yet. He says, hey, instead of us chit-chatting, why don't we start with you over there and let's get to know you. Tell us about yourself. And I happen to be the next person over. So this gentleman starts, and I'm thinking, all right, I got to talk about my toys. I got to talk about things, show them, because I already know they're successful. And at that point, it didn't go from this guy to me. It went the other way around the room. And I was so grateful for that, because what I learned as I listened to these so evolved human beings was that none of them talked about their toys. None of them they talked about making a difference in the world. They talked about things that really mattered. And by the time it got to me, I mean, having my young child and having, been through so much of adversity, I was bawling my eyes out.
And so were they.
And yeah, and because it was all about life lessons, and I ran out of there like, I'm going to start my foundation and I'm going to do good in the world. And we went back and we did so many wonderful things that didn't, again, have to do with toys or money.
But that also stresses the importance of having mentors in your life, because these men became his mentors, and it was a big string throughout his life.
Mike Ingram, Foster Freeze.
I know we don't have a lot of time. I just have two more questions to ask you, Laura. As the book title being Integrity, what does that mean to you personally? Does this book embody it, and what does it mean to you?
I think what a great question, Mindy, because we tooled with a lot of different titles of the book. First and foremost, I want to answer the second part of that question, and I think that Glenn is the epitome of integrity, and in the essence of the word, not just integrity, but the grit aspect of integrity. And I think that and I think that for me, I think integrity is saying what you meaning what you say, and doing what you should do even when nobody else is looking.
So, Laura, when I think of that, I think about people that say, wow, that person has a great cloud over their head. Always had a great. Hey, turn your phone off. It's full of hypocrisy, isn't it?
Chet.
Wait, while there's chaos.
No, there's no turn. No, this is staying in there. What's that?
Breaking news.
What?
Are you ready? Repeat after me. My book is #3 on Amazon.
Woo!
Under Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah. Arnold. Oh, he's #2. We're #1.
But his
that bastard.
His book doesn't come out to the fall. You're good.
All right.
So let her finish her thoughts.
No, let's go on to the hypocrisy of your phone ringing. But besides
By the
that,
way, can I just chime in here and go, this was the fun of writing the book with Glenn and getting to know Glenn and Mindy in this entire journey. There aren't two more amazing human beings on the planet, and they're generous in every single way, but truly with their spirit. And so, how lucky am I that I got the chance to work with them.
Wow.
And you, Glenn, to share the story of great integrity.
We're
deeply.
So I wanted to talk about one little thing really quickly, and that's very important about when people think someone has a great cloud and they're always unlucky and all that stuff. I don't believe any of that, because what it is how you live your life and the seeds you plant along the way, right? And when you do that, then you will have good luck or bad luck in your life. And one quick example, don't kick me because I know we have to go, but that is that my son had gone through some issues in his school once.
Don't tell
I'm
that
not going to
story.
get deep on that, but what I'm saying is,
Go, poor Laura.
no, she's got 2 minutes. So what happened was, he ended up, they asked him to leave for a couple months, right, out of the school, and they didn't ask the accomplice, the lady friend, to leave. And I said, "Do you think that's fair, son?" And he goes, "I don't know, maybe." I go, "I do think it's fair that she stayed and you didn't have to, and I'll tell you why. She was on the honor roll. She had 0 demerits. She had never been in trouble. You were not on the honor roll, and you were kind of on the other end of that, and you had like 16 demerits. None of them were important. Your tie wasn't on right that day. You didn't cut your hair.
You had shaving your
little things that you think don't matter. But I'll tell you what, all these little things in life matter, because one day they come back to roost, right? And one day people are either going to catch you because you've been good and you've been on the honor roll and you've been, or they're going to let you go. When they added up and when they looked at you, all these little nick, they said, "You know what? It's time to let the guy go." And I said, that's life. And so I think when people go out there and they plant their seeds, either good or bad, it'll come back. And you can call them sunny days or you can call them cloudy days. It doesn't, whichever side you're on, right?
What seeds are you planting and what are you watering with those seeds?
And so that has to do a lot with where I found my kind of life of going, man, it's really, no one else is looking, but I'll know personally what's going on, and I'll know whether or not I want to do it. But with all that said, Laura, because that was really the whole bottom line of the book, was that I think we can end up breathing our last breath very, very content and happy with what we've done if we live true to ourselves, or it won't be such a happy ending if we cut corners.
You just said breast and happy endings.
Did I in one sentence?
Well, I heard it.
So I want you to know how grateful I am for being able to,
Laura, you've been such a godsend.
Put these words down
truly
on the paper for me, and I'm very, very proud of the book. Thank you for all that you've done.
Laura, real fast, I know we got to wrap, but didn't you tell us that one of the people who read the book, who reads books for a living every day, all day, had a profound reaction to it? Isn't that what you said happened with one of the editors or someone that read it?
I think it was Hope Anelli, and she, I mean, this is a woman who has, as an editor, she has shepherded some of the biggest books, to be published, and she's, she was incredibly moved by Glenn's story of resilience and overcoming, and it's hard to impress your editor because usually, their job is to tear it apart a little bit to make it better. And in this particular instance, she didn't have a lot of work to do there. But she really was incredibly moved by the story. And, and it just goes to show this is a story that touches a lot of people in a lot of different ways. There will be bits and pieces of your story, Glenn, that I think will speak to a very wide audience. And so, if you are in the mortgage lending business, you'll be inspired because Glenn is, a legend in that business. If you like Glenn's, really fun stories about his times, doing reality television, I think meeting and falling in love with Mindy is an amazing story. I think, all the stories about your children and your legacy and your father and your mother and, some of the incredible, I don't want to call them coincidences because I don't think that's what they were. I think they were just, moments that were meant to be. I think that there's so much that people will take away from this. And they got a little bit of that wisdom today during our conversation. You've told a lot of great stories, some of which are in the book, that I think, demonstrate how you look at things. And if nothing else, I think that you bring a very unique perspective to what others might perceive as being impossible situations. And in your world, I just don't think that word exists.
Oh, that's beautiful, Laura. Wow. Thank you.
Laura.
Wow, we have so enjoyed being with you. I know you have a very busy life. You have a big documentary out there, Anxious Nation, that's been out in theaters, getting awards, getting all sorts of accolades, because you really wrap a nice big package about the anxiety epidemic in this country. And I think that is another thing we can talk about on another episode.
Everybody.
Please come back and talk to us. Get your books wherever you can. Right now on Amazon, they are there. They're selling. You can get books by the million. There's so many great places, Barnes and Noble, but you want to get your copy. It comes out May 23rd. And you know what? You've got a Sharpie ready to go. So anytime you see Glenn, just hold it.
Yeah, I would say that this book, you know, it's like, how do you start a movement, right? And I would say that when people read this book, it's the book they're going to want to tell their friends to get. It's the book that they're going to want to share with their friends. And, you know, there's going to be earmarked pages, underlined, you know, statements, all of that. So I think, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, how people respond to it, Glenn. And I thank you both for having me today and sharing a little bit about our journey on getting Integrity written.
Our producer just yelled from the background, who's playing Glenn in the movie? Who would you cast, Laura?
Matt Damon.
Oh, well, there you go. He might be all right.
Matt Damon would be a great Glenn, don't you think?
Say Brad Pitt.
I don't know. I was thinking I was going to say somebody who I know they're not going to say it because there's a story about him. I think Matt Damon's a great choice, but you know,
we'll manifest it. Matt Damon.
Yeah, we'll manifest it. We'll Matt Damon fest it.
But
listen, I think there is a movie here. That's how good I think the book is. Not because I wrote it, it's because Glenn has lived every single one of these stories.
Yeah, he has, and I've lived half of them.
I've had so many friends
You've lived a lot
I used to not believe your stories, Glenn, until I started being in a lot of the stories. I'm like, told you.
Well, maybe there'll be a book too. Thank you, Laura. We are so grateful for your time and all that you gave and contributed to today's conversation, and not just now, but over the past 3 years since we first met you.
Thank you for the friendship.
You are a godsend to us. So thank you for tuning in.
Proud.
Yes, excited.
Right back at
Look,
you
it's
guys.
so pretty. It's so pretty. I love the raised words on
I
there.
mean, is that an amazing cover or what?
Look at that.
Why did all these other guys start copying me, like Arnold and
put your face.
Who's that
I know,
guy?
this cover is exactly like yours. It's Prince Harry. But I have to say, that is a meaty book. That's a meaty book.
That's meat. There's a lot of meat here.
You're gonna get your money's worth on this book.
You are.
You know?
All right, that's it. You've been listening to another episode of, make sure you subscribe.
Thank you.